What's up, you guys? Josh Sathiat here in Singapore, and thank you so much, as always, for joining me on the Night Owl podcast. You guys, I don't know if you know, but the reason I even named it a Night Owl is because I'm the kind of person who is more night than I am daytime. I could stay up all night, and actually, funnily enough, I can still wake up in the morning and keep on going. But for the most part, I get a little more zen at night. I feel like I can get a little bit more done. It's something about knowing the rest of the world is asleep that makes me feel a little bit easier, a little bit more free to be able to kind of, get my work done. So lately I've been thinking about trauma and being trauma informed of what that means. And I am a huge, huge fan of Mastin Kipp and all of his work. And I love how simply he breaks everything down. And it makes so much sense that all of our disorders are actually response systems that we've created for ourselves so that we can survive whatever trauma originally created that response. And unfortunately, we haven't just let go of that habit yet. So I was thinking about that. What is it that causes the trauma? What is it that, that brings on all of that pain? And unfortunately, I realized that a lot of what we do to avoid pain is what causes trauma. We are so afraid of pain. We're so afraid of getting hurt. We're so afraid of getting our feelings hurt, being physically beaten, being put into a corner, anything that would cause us to feel like we are less than ourselves. We really, really do our best to avoid. And sometimes avoidance is not the best way to handle those things because it allows the perpetrator or the oppressor to kind of continue their own behaviors, almost like we're enabling them, right? If we don't put them in their place, if we don't, not to say we need to show them strength right in the beginning, but if we don't tell them this hurts, this is upsetting to me, this is unacceptable, it is very, very painful when you do certain things. If you don't let them know, they automatically assume it's gone unchecked. It should be okay. It must be fine. It's not a big deal. And of course, we have this uncanny way of justifying what people do. We try to give them, the benefit of the doubt. That's gotten me in trouble a lot. We try to justify, oh, this is a passing phase. It's not like, who they really are because I've seen, better aspects of them and it's not like this. And we try to explain it away as rationally as we possibly can because we love that person. We care about that person. But to be honest, we avoid a lot of pain, and in so doing we create a lot of problems. We create a rift in communication. We create these elephants in the room because we haven't said what's on our mind. We haven't attacked, okay, maybe attack is a harsh word. We haven't addressed the problems that are going on because it upsets us, and that's enough of a reason to be able to address something. Let me take it back a little bit. Whenever I felt like there was favoritism in my family, I am the only girl, I am the eldest, and as much as my mom did not like me acting like a boy, she definitely treated me like I was one of the boys. I was the eldest. I was meant to raise my two brothers and give them an example of, how to be strong and how to learn to take care of themselves. And I felt good about that. I was okay with that. But I always felt like they got treated better. Because they were male, they were allowed more freedoms. I felt like I was the odd one out, like I was put upon sometimes, and I never addressed it with my mom because I was under the impression that that was just the way things were, and I could not speak my mind in my house because it was seen as backtalk, it was seen as disrespectful, and so I just didn't. But years and years of that meant that she never knew how I felt about the way she treated the three of us. She loved us all. She really did love us all, and I didn't address it, so I didn't say anything. I kept it to myself. It festered inside of me. And eventually, there were so many things that had built up that I'd never said to her that when I finally did say it, it was almost like an attack on her character. And she felt like I was dead set against her, like I was out to destroy her. I was really out to start World War III or whatever. And it caused even more grief at that point because we just couldn't speak to each other. We couldn't be in the same room. We couldn't speak to each other. Same thing with my father when he would come home and he was very upset because maybe he'd lost a job or there was some financial difficulty. There were a lot of things that he did that I never spoke up about. Perhaps if I had addressed some of the behaviors that he showed to me early on in a public forum, maybe it wouldn't have gone on as long as it did, and maybe we would have corrected his behavior way, way earlier, and so that it wouldn't affect any other people. It wouldn't, his temper might have calmed down a little bit. I don't know. But at least I would have said my part and let him know that, hey, I see you. This isn't okay with me. You need to stop. But that's the thing, right? I don't address these things back then because I was afraid that it would cause more drama, that it would definitely get me an ass whooping, that it would definitely get me, public forum beatdown where he would call up his brothers and sisters and say, well, guess what your niece did today? You know what I'm saying? So I did the best I could to avoid as much pain as possible, but in so doing, I created some of my trauma. Fast forward to my wedding. And my marriage, there were a lot of things that were red flags along the way. And I could have said something, and I should have said something, and I should have walked away, to be honest. But I didn't because there were children involved, and I did love this man, and I did feel like, you know what, maybe I could help. Maybe they need a stable person in their lives so that maybe they realize that, pure love does exist, and unconditional love is a thing, and it is the most healing of all things in the world. But unfortunately, I let a lot of things slide. I turned a blind eye to a lot of things. When I was pushed into an abortion, I chose to stay in a comfortable place rather than do the hard thing, keep the baby and move out, find another place to stay, find another way to exist. I was too afraid. I didn't think that I could handle the amount of strife that would come with raising a baby away from the father. And I was afraid of the backlash. I was afraid that he would come and take the baby away, or at least shame me in front of all of our friends and family. Like, I was terrified of him. And so the best thing that I could do at the time was to avoid the pain as much as possible and go through a different pain instead. I chose my pain, basically. It was the pain of losing a child versus the pain of all of my imagination put together, which is dumb, right? Because none of that stuff happened. I am currently raising my child away from the father. I am currently taking care of her in a completely different place than where he is. And I chose a place far, far, far away from him. So he can't come get the baby. He can't take her away from me. And I even went as so far as to ask him for him to relinquish all parental custody or all parental rights so that I would make sure that I could take care of her very well. So a lot of the trauma that I went through could have been avoided, could have been minimized. It didn't have to be trauma, so to speak. It could have been chaos. It could have been a little bit of stress, but it didn't have to be trauma because I could have faced it head on. But my fear of the backlash, my fear of what would happen next, my fear that they would tell me off led me to behavior that was uncharacteristic of me. I had to drop all of my values aside. All the things that I told you was, oh, my integrity and all this stuff, I did not stand by. I dropped all that because suddenly it was about my survival, and I wasn't sure if I could survive an abusive relationship. So I did what I thought was right. I did what would reduce the most amount of pain, in my opinion, and unfortunately it didn't work out the way I thought it would. But even still, I realize now that if I had just spoken up earlier, I would have saved myself a little bit of heartache. It would have been minimized. It would have been just a little bit because, maybe I left in the first couple of months of knowing him versus after 8 years of trying to make a marriage work and raising a family. So eventually, right, you choose your hard. You choose your difficulty. You choose where you want to be. Honestly, I can't blame anyone on my trauma or for my trauma because I chose not to speak up at certain times. I chose to stay quiet and allow the behavior to continue. I chose to turn a blind eye and focus elsewhere in the relationship because I wasn't ready to leave it. I wasn't ready to handle what would happen after. I was afraid of what people would think if I left a marriage. Well, guess what? They're thinking it anyway. I was afraid of what people would think if I became a single mom. Guess what? They're thinking it anyway. And I'm not dead yet. I didn't die of shame. I didn't die of guilt. I'm still kicking it. But yeah, I firmly believe that a lot of my trauma could have been avoided, could have been minimized if I had just chosen things that aligned with my integrity, my value system, my beliefs, and done what was necessary for me rather than trying to keep everyone happy. So this people-pleasing bit, probably the worst trait I have, but it's taken a lot of undoing and taken a lot of rewriting, but I'm on my way and I'm happy about that. So I hope this finds you and gives you the courage that you need to stand by your beliefs and your instincts, even if the outcome might look like it's just tantamount to lots and lots of pain. I want you to know that it's possible to do the things that you're afraid of, and it's possible to come out the other side without as much trauma and as much healing to do as you might if you continue to let things escalate or continue to allow things to be as they are while they hurt you on a daily basis. I love you guys. I hope this helps. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments. But until the next time, y'all take care of yourselves, okay? Bye.